I found this article quite interesting. I decided to bring it up to share with you here on this platform. Yoruba and Igbo, the Yorubas and the Igbos. Well, as you all know, these two tribes are the oldest tribes in what we call Nigeria or Niger area. The only thing that we should keep in our minds as Nigerians or as people trapped in the contraption called Nigeria, in a geographical expression called Nigeria, is growth, notwithstanding which region we might come from or which country we might end up having, as Nigeria definitely is going to divide. One thing that I think is very important is solidarity amongst our ethnic groups and, of course, amongst the tribes after the nation has broken apart. If you could look deep into history of great nations in the world, nations that many people envy today, you will see some events and development that required many of them to come together and put their hands on deck. Although the complexity of Nigeria and many African nations, it's the issue of many of these colonial masters bringing nations that are not supposed to be together, people that do not share the same language, the same cultural practices, moral values, and a lot of things, bringing them together by force. So I therefore urge Yorubas and Igbos to kind of listen to this and let us kind of draw one or two points, meaningful points from this. Now let us look a little bit at the stories that have been told over time, the ancestry of Yorubas themselves. Now, there is a man called Oduduwa, although there are some people that claim, like I said initially, that are domiciled in the southwest of Nigeria. And they said Oduduwa came and he met them there. And they said they cannot be called Oduduwa. But whatever it is, Oduduwa was commissioned, as they say, to carry out a terrestrial task. He, however, descended from the sky with a cockerel, as the story goes, which had 6 fingers, and the earthly body was formed through the indigenous deployment of his avian subject. Oduduwa, however, they said, founded Ile-Ife, which they believe to be the ancestral home of the Yoruba race. Although, like I said, there are people, I've heard some kings say that they are not the children of Oduduwa, that Oduduwa met them there. And common sense, I believe, will make you kind of reason it. Who were the people in the southwest of Nigeria before, or that part called southwest, before Oduduwa came? Well, let's go on with the story. They said that he also established his kingdom and he had wives and sons in accordance to the history of that we've heard over time. The mystic origin of the Igbo people is not much different from that of the Yorubas. The ancestral founder and god of the Igbo people is known as Inri, N-R-I. History of Igbo land stated that Inri descended from the sky on a massive mission to bring about solidarity among the people and help establish a social balance. Probably you must have heard of a different version of this. And recently we've started hearing that they came all the way from Israel and they tried to kind of check the genetic pool of the people that are domiciled in Israel now. And the result that came said, no, they are not part of us. And well, there is still something as regards that part. I think I will just touch a little bit on that. First, how do you compare your genetic makeup with a fake and you expect to get the answers? What you need to understand is that there are still some issues as regards the original indigenous people of Israel as it is. You know, the Palestinians claim that the people that were there were much darker and not the Europeans that are there. And there's something called the Ashkenazi Jews. That's a story for another day. Anyway, Igbos believe that they came from that part. And Oduduwa is said to have come somehow from Saudi Arabia. So one of them came from this end, Middle East anyway. But the story is that both of them came from the sky. They descended from the sky on a massive mission to bring about solidarity. Inri, they said, also established his kingdom, and he had wives whom, of course, he had sons too. His sons, however, founded other Igbo towns and community. Now, when you look a little bit, scrutinize the origin of these two great African mystical pioneers, Oduduwa and Inri. It can be deducted that the Yorubas and the Igbos share similar origin based on the stories. Some mystical creature came from the sky. If they are not called the same anyway, likewise, the two are one of the oldest inhabitants of what we call Nigeria or Niger area. They are the oldest inhabitants of what we call Nigeria. Now, there is still another story that cropped up, that came up. They linked the people in Onitsha and they linked them to the Benin Kingdom. Somehow there is also a link there, and that's not the topic for today. So the point is this: when you look at the north and the south of Nigeria, and you look at the amalgamation of both, let us look a little bit at let's look at the culture and the morals and the way of life. You will realize that the food eaten in the north is not the same as that of the south. The south has they have a kind of connection among themselves when it comes to food. So somehow they must one way or the other share some ancestry or some culture or something. Although when we look at them, you realize that there are a lot of kingdoms back in those days, and these kingdoms are nations, but the amalgamation brought people that are not of the same. They are not of the same. They don't speak the same language, and they brought them together. We live today in a world where things have changed. Even before the Europeans invaded, Africa invaded what we call Nigeria today. If you look into history, it also reveals that there haven't been that kind of aggressive feelings or war amongst the Yorubas and the Igbos, despite occupying the same southern hemisphere. I've never heard that there was a war between the Yorubas, either Oduduwa and Inri or any other. They cohabited calmly without any problem. So what I'm saying in essence is that even when there was wars between the clans and ethnic group and kingdoms during the pre-colonial era, and of course amongst other tribes, there was never any recorded. If you have any, please share. There was never any pre-recorded war between the Igbos. They are the majority in the southeast of Nigeria and the Yorubas in the southwest of Nigeria. Now, there are some stories about the linguistic, language, and that they say that somehow both of the tribes, the root of their language originates, they said, from Kwa group of the Niger-Congo origin. There are a lot of people that have done the study of linguistic and a lot of things. They said it came from the lower Niger-Congo, Kwa group of the Niger-Congo origin. So with all of this singularity, why should people begin to worry and begin to attack each other if back in those days there weren't even anything at all? Do you think this is the best time for the South to embrace themselves and split, as somehow they've been able to cohabit among themselves for a very long time? Now, some say Oduduwa as well as Inri will never want war amongst themselves. Let's say back in those days, they would never have wanted that, and none of that had happened. So I believe that with this, there should be a kind of connection, a kind of connection. And there are even some people saying that Igbos have no origin or connection with the Yorubas, that they migrated from Israel. Simple. I think I've touched on that aspect where they said that the people domiciled in Israel came down to the southeast of Nigeria. They picked, among the demographics, they picked one or two people and they took samples of DNA and they compared with the database and they said, no, you are not part of us. That is a very complex one. If you want to kind of check this, go online and do more research about this. There is a lot of politics in many of these things, and it's a deep mud to jump into. So if you want to do research. I know a lot of people say, no, we are from Israel. Yes. When you look memory lane and you look at history, it is even said that the people that were domiciled in Israel, they said, we talk about the 12 tribes of Israel. That is what makes up Israel. But do not forget that there are other brothers Jacob became Israel, and Israel had 12 children. Do not forget that Israel, that is Jacob, had a brother called Esau. Where was he domiciled? Where did he live? Were his brothers around him? You understand this thing? So you need to go do some research. So 12 tribes of Israel. One time they said they found some of them in Ethiopia. Later they said, no, it's politics. Very funny things are happening in this world. And when you look at all the tribes, they said, oh, all the tribes are coming back. And when we looked at all the tribes, all of a sudden these tribes, they look European, blue-eyed, blonde. How can they have come from the Middle East? That's a mystery. Did they kind of mix up with other people over time? We don't know. But what we see and what people say is the Ashkenazi Jew, and they kind of link them to Russia, upper this and that. And, the Palestinians that are indigenous to that place that have not moved out of that place said, no, our ancestors told us the people that were here were brown skin and not what we are seeing today. And all of a sudden they brought in the Ethiopians. The Ethiopians don't look like Europeans. So they say these are one of the tribes. One of the tribes. Tribes from where? It's a very deep and very murky water to go into. Anyway, Igbos have said they are from Israel. Whatever that is, they could be from there. Who knows? As Israel has been turned and turned here and there over time. But what I'm trying to say here is this. It will be very, very, very good if the south of Nigeria can come together, go backwards, look inwards, and check within themselves and break this unholy marriage, this forced marriage, this amalgamation of the north and the south together. What is your opinion as regards this? Please drop it in the comment section below.